Ooh, we is about to get real here in the United States. And you're going to see who you elected and whether you were ever on the agenda to make America great. All power, all control, and authority has been handed over. It's his words here in America. And there's nothing and no one to stop him concerning anything he proposes to do. It's his house, and they can pass into law whatever they please. As a woke black man who voted for him based on a $1,400 stimulus check that he didn't give you, what part of being woke tells you that this will be in your favor? I'm not going to lay all the blame on you for this man being reelected because you didn't do it by yourself. You actually were aided by the Democratic Party, who tried to sun you into doing what they wanted for reasons that had nothing to do with your ability to think like a man while disrespecting you in the process. Imagine that. The one time you finally raise your voice to say loud and clear what you will and will not be doing, they try to force you, shut you down, and tell you to do as you are told, guaranteeing that you would not be doing it. And the way they did it, in full display on media, like you some child who needs reprimanding by the chief swagger himself, Obama, was the fuck up of all time. Because all he did was guarantee the vote would be going to Trump. Regardless of the gravity of what Trump might do if reelected, people wanted and needed their issues to be addressed. And while abortion may have been one of them, you cannot run a campaign on it with hundreds of thousands living in the streets while offering 25,000 to new homeowners. And you can't close the immigration issue by simply agreeing to sign papers to protect the borders while habitual reports of illegal immigrants invading homes are circulating. How do you expect people to take seriously the threats of Trump reelected while ignoring actual threats of people unable to pay their rent or mortgage, while shelling out millions to house those here illegally, providing benefits citizens themselves have never received? How do you convince of the lies being told by Trump when you yourselves avoid the issues in favor of twerking in order to get the vote? It's that kind of insult that presumes all we got to do is make them happy, make them laugh, make them dance in order to get their vote that piss some people off. And you are so far removed from the heart of America, you left the door wide open for a man to run a campaign based on see and say. Because whatever he saw, he'd say, see, look. And that's all they wanted. Somebody to co-sign and identify with their suffering. Whenever have you heard of somebody wanting to identify with another felon? But he even rode the gravy train to victory on that. Those weren't woke black men with felony convictions identifying with Trump. Those were evidence of the mind fuck played on black men in this country who see a white man as a savior after an entire history of naming him the devil. The cause and reason for his mass incarcerations, murders by police. Yet he proudly and loudly proclaims a vote for him because he believes his wrongful arrests are what happened to Trump and that he is fighting the very system which wrongfully brutalizes and murders him. Had he not been discarded to the degree that he has been in this country, you would not have seen that. But even after seeing and hearing it, what did you do? You let it ride. And if you thought the man of swagger was going to tell him about a black woman whom they should vote for, when word on the streets is of her own mass incarcerations of them, even in the face of clear innocence, then you didn't do your research. They know who the hell she is. They experienced who she is. And she was as black as she is now as she was when she was doing it. So you appeared to be selling them a dream, and they weren't buying it. You cannot justify billions on top of billions to help foreign countries fight their battles when your own people can't afford to eat and are living in the streets. And those who aren't are struggling to pay the rent and the mortgage. You don't understand the grace and the patience that's been given to the Democratic Party waiting for you to get it together and send some relief. But that shit was over the minute you let those illegal immigrants in by the hundreds of thousands, taking away their centers, putting them in schools, putting them in five-star hotels, while leaving the mayors of these cities begging for relief, begging for assistance. And all that went right over your head during this campaign. You thought because you agreed to sign some papers protecting the border would solve the problem? No. It's hard to convince democracy is at stake and protected rights and civil liberties are in jeopardy of being taken when you yourself allow the brutalization and wrongful arrest of demonstrators in the street, demanding an end to a genocide which has been determined by the International Court to be precisely that. The Constitution and the bylaws were on their side in the demonstrations being had, and the world courts had agreed. But democracy was not on their side. And not only were they beaten and arrested, but tenured professors in universities lost their career because they didn't act swiftly enough to smash and kill their demonstrations. So, however true the dismantling of democracy may be with the re-election of Trump, it is your own actions against the people which established democracy was not an issue of concern. because you had no respect or regard to it as people were protesting to save lives. You convinced that it meant nothing by doubling up and saying that you would continue that same support using their tax dollars in order to do it. I'm sure it hasn't immediately set in what has taken place with the re-election of Trump, but a very different kind of America is going to be seen and felt. And you will have to learn your way around all over again because of the changes that will be taking place. You've entered into foreign territory, and things will not be where they once were. You'll look for a place to take action and not find it. You'll look to report and complain, and nothing and no one will be there to hear it. What will always be there is the people who told you in advance who and what you would be voting for, while you shouted them down, refusing to hear it. And if you didn't hear, you could see it, if only you chose to look. God Himself has exposed every single solitary thing imaginable, so you could see who you have chosen, who you decided to worship, who is now set up as God with all power, all authority, granted by the highest courts in the land, who says he can do anything he wants, legally or illegally, and nothing and no one can stop him for as long as he presides as president. These powers were given before you gave your vote, and you were told. Now you're going to see if the objective was to make America great or a man who presumes himself to be God. Still don't know who he is?